Alrighty, and we are live. Thank you everybody for coming back in. Still waiting on some people to come into the stream with us, but I'm gonna just go ahead and get started solo. I don't want to run too late on you guys. Um, we're not gonna take a whole lot of time today. I just want to go into the basics of some of the projects that are within the Hex ecosystem, and obviously Hex itself. We've got Pulsechain and PulseX releasing soon. And then the two other ones that I really want to look at is the Hedron contract and the Maximus contract. Give everybody some of the main ideas surrounding those products, what makes them valuable, and then obviously how people are going to be using them moving forward. But let's just get started off with Hex. Still sitting at about 5 cents. One T-share, $1,157. If you want to get a T-share by using the max length stake, you're probably going to be looking at a little over 300, little under $400 for a T-share right now. Everything looking good. Adoption's looking real good. We officially hit over 100,000 stakers. We've gained 600 since crossing that mark. Sitting at 23,132 and a half hex per T-share. This T-share rate is not waiting on anybody. It doesn't matter where the price is. Getting a T-share is becoming increasingly more hard. So you should be getting as many T-shares as you possibly can right now. Try not to forget about that. Looks like Alex just got on here. Go ahead and throw him in here. What's up, bro? How you doing today?
What's going on, man? Doing all right, brother. How about you?
No, not a whole lot. Just basically going through the daily hex stats, I suppose you could call it. Just kind of went through the T-share rate, just telling everybody nobody's that T-share rate isn't waiting on anybody. It's gonna keep on going up. It doesn't matter where the price is, and your ability to get that T-share is gonna become more difficult. Payout today was 6.12. That's about where we've been hovering at. Got a 6.4 on the 1st of August. But yeah, 6.3, 6.2, 6.4, definitely hovering over that 6 range. So getting some nice little payouts. And then expiring stakes down here, the same old story. This is what our future market supply looks like. So if you're staking, try to stake away from these bigger jumps, because that's whenever it's going to be a little bit less scarce. Probably not going to have the best price performance in times like these. So I'm going to force you guys who are staking to start filling in some of these empty spaces that we got. But yeah, let's just dive right into it. I want to go over Hex first. I'm not going to go into like deep detail today. I'm just going to go into some of the stuff that they're going to put on the main website. So this episode is mainly going to be for people who are newer. If you're wondering what any of this stuff is, odds are you're going to go to the website and you're going to see some of this stuff. And I just want to explain some of it, because not all of it's going to make sense to everybody who's looking at this for the first time. But yeah, this is what this episode is mainly going to be for. So Hex first. Hex is the first blockchain CD. If you don't know what a CD is, a certificate of deposit, also known as time deposits or bonds, are worth trillions of dollars and used by hundreds of millions of people worldwide. CDs are worth more than gold, credit card companies, and cash, and Hex is just a superior version of that CD. It has different characteristics, it has different features, it works a different way. You can compare it to a CD, but it's not a CD because it's just simply better. It pays more ROI. Looks like Mac just got in here. What's up, Mac? How you doing today?
What's up, boys?
Macadelic.
Macadelic. Yeah, man. Just diving into some of like the basic
keep going, man. You're on fire there. Keep going.
Basic Hex tokenomics. So incredible performance. Cryptocurrencies are the highest appreciating asset class in the history of mankind. Bitcoin's price appreciated 6.5 million X in 12 years, from 1 cent to $65,000. And Hex has appreciated 9,481 X so far, outpacing both Bitcoin and Ethereum. If we hit that 6.5 million X, which if we did, it would probably be faster because we're outperforming Bitcoin. Hex would be at $367. So that's something to keep in mind. We're at 4 cents. So if this should give you any indication of where we're headed, because again, you put the first 2.5 years of Hex right next to the first 2.5 years of Bitcoin, and we're clear, and we're outpacing it. So if we hit the same mark that it does someday, $367 is where you would be able to value Hex at, and sitting at 4 cents, and the fact that it pays about a 40% APY. You should seriously consider getting the best position that you can, because there's still many gains to be seen in this in Hex. Hex removes middlemen. Hex is finished, immutable, unstoppable smart contract with 3 independent audits from 2 of the top blockchain contract auditors in the world. By design, there is no central entity in Hex. No one owes anybody anything. As long as you have your private keys, you truly own your Hex. I actually posted a picture yesterday on my Snapchat. It was a dollar bill, and it literally says on the dollar bill, what exactly does it say? This is a legal tender of all debts, public and private. The biggest thing that I see in our financial system today is just that, like, we don't actually own anything, even when we think we do. And a lot of that is just the security that a lot of our finances have been built around. We don't necessarily have good security, good privacy, good anything. I mean, you gotta get permission for all types of things just to do anything innovative in this world. So I think having a good, secure, private cash, or not cash system, but crypto that is going to provide the privacy and security needed to operate in these different ways, it definitely adds to the value of Hex itself. And just being an immutable contract, locked away, isolated, like Richard says, safe within a safe, it really provides, nobody can touch it, it can't be changed, and it really takes out that that the toxicity of having things so centralized in this world. So very important concept there. And it definitely adds to the value. It definitely makes more people want to buy it, which in turn adds to the price performance. So Hex's share price went up 16,104%. So you have Hex, and Hex will go up and down in price. But like we just talked about with the T share, the price of the T share is always going up. So even though you've seen Hex that has only done a 9,481x, the price of the T share in Hex terms is always going up. So that itself, if you're holding it, has done better price appreciation than just holding Hex in your wallet has. This is why staking is so important, because that share price drives the value of Hex in a lot of ways. And so if you're holding if you're holding shares instead of just holding that Hex in your wallet, you're going to get better price appreciation, and that shows right here. And that's mostly because you're making that yield. So Hex's inflation is capped at 3.69%. And that 3.69 is distributed to the stakers. And that's partially where you get this 38% APY from. You get the other part of it from the penalties accrued in the system. So when people make contracts in Hex and they decide, halfway down the road that they want their money and they want it now, they're going to end their stake. They're going to have to emergency end stake, and the contract is going to penalize them accordingly. If you don't fulfill at least 50% of your stake, your principal is going to be dipped into. So 50% of your stake, all the interest that was supposed to be paid out, will be penalized by the contract, and all of that's going to be paid out to the stakers. So you not only get the 3.69% inflation ratioed out to your T shares, you also get the penalties accrued by the system ratioed out to your T shares. And so, yeah, that is basically all I'm going to go into for Hex. So we can kind of talk about some of these things before we move on to Hedron. What do you think, Mac? Do you think, I guess how do I want to put this? What do you think the most valuable part of Hex tokenomics are? Would you say it's the capped out inflation? Would you say it's the security model? Or maybe some of just the other nuanced stuff like the penalties?
Like as a general thing, it's the game theory, man. Like it's all of it. That is literally what separates this from 99% of the other shit out there. Like all of this, the fact that we have a share price, the fact that we have like a fixed inflation rate, the fact that we have an APY that can be like altered and adjusted and kind of set by the OA. Like there are so many it's a multifaceted thing. There's so many brilliant elements of the system that like you might go to another coin or another token and you go, oh, it's, you know, it gets to this point and then it's deflationary.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what else?
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, that was it. Yeah. Like,
I especially like the penalties though, because it kind of shows how you can build incentive into these codes, you know, and it incentivizes better behavior because, you know, while other people are acting up during a bear market, ending their stakes left and right, the people who are holding the way, you know, it was meant to when you made those contracts are really reaping the extra rewards from it. We've seen it in the payout, you know, over this bear market. So what Hex really shows to me is how good behavior can be incentivized with this software. And I think that's a really important concept whenever you're talking about a world full of market toxicity where people are always incentivized to do shittier things.
Absolutely.
That's why Hex is personally my favorite. That's why I think it's the most valuable, and I think that's why everything is being built around it, because people see that it's incentivizing very baseline good economic behavior.
Yes. And there's bleed on effects down the line past that, like mental health things and, you know, lifestyle things. If you have a reason to look forward to the future and have your money locked up into the future, like there's a reason to live, there's a reason to exist, there's a reason to wake up and get paid every day. Like you're going to get paid for every day that you're locked into the future.
Yeah.
Like like if you hold your money in a bank, you might get interest once a quarter. And if you do, and if you do get it, it's like 30 cents. And you're like, oh, shit, man, I just waited 3 months to get fucking 30 cents. Like,
garbage.
Yeah, that ticker goes off on the Hex website. You're getting paid, buddy.
every day. And I love even just in like there's general, you know, information up here, but there's so much nuance in all of this above as well. Like, you know, we have an inflation rate of 3.69%. But that inflation rate's really a delayed inflation rate. If it never gets sold out of the system, it's not even 3.69. It's like closer to 0 than anything.
Yeah, and I think that is that, and you'd have to correct me if I'm wrong, but that's basically what's going to make us deflationary in the future, is that you're going to have so many people delaying so much inflation into the future that basically we won't be able to inflate enough to keep up with how much stakes are being, you know, being pushed out.
There's a little nuance in there that's, as the share rate goes up, the amount of T shares that you can get goes down.
Yeah.
So the amount of T shares that are in the system kind of stops the inflation from being as crazy as it was in the beginning. Like in the beginning, that's when all the T shares are there. That's when the biggest amount of inflation is going to be there. Because after year 10, like what is the share rate going to be? Like maybe 100,000 Hex a T share? Who's going to be able to afford a T share at that point?
Nobody. Yeah. Very, very, very little people.
Only the people that were really in it from the beginning that helped through all that.
Yeah.
So it incentivizes this long structured system of like, okay, there's going to get to a point.
And even then, like the people who were there at the very beginning are just getting slowly diluted over time.
Correct.
Because of that growing T share. You know,
Yep.
it's like Bitfinesse just said here, you know, guys, we were just at 21,000. We're now over 23,000.
Bro, we started at 10,000.
Wow.
I remember when
Yeah.
it was 10,000. Fuck.
Yeah.
And
Like it does.
none of us were thinking at that point about T-shares. Like it took
Yeah.
6 months of being inside the system for someone to be like, hey, what's a T-share? What do they do? It's like,
And the thing is like we think it's going fast now. And we've only seen like, you know, 1 to 2.5 year ROIs getting paid out. I mean, the further we go into time, the more valuable each stake that's coming out from those Genesis eras
yes.
that are just going to be gaining so much ROI that it's going to force this T-share rate to go exponential.
Yep. You're
Yeah.
watching some of the big accounts. They do those like 30-day rotating stakes. Now, I'm not sure how that like T-share rate like really gets jacked up in a technical sense. It is the return on interest from long stakes or big stakes, but I don't know the actual nuance in there. But those big accounts, those, you know, sharks and borderline whales, they've been pushing that T-share rate up quick over this last 2-year period. So like it's a blessing and it's a curse because you want more time to accumulate your T-shares before the T-share rate gets really crazy. But they're also in a way like over the long term, they're protecting the system from people that like bad actors in the system that will come in and just game the T-shares while they can game them and kind of walk away with, you know, exit liquidity basically.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, Hex is still in its infancy. You know, I mean, we're still pre-viral. I think we just hit what, like 100K stakers in general.
Yep.
Like,
yeah.
That's wild, bro.
Yeah, I mean, we're you talk about billions of people on this planet.
Yeah,
I mean, 100,000 is just so minuscule.
It's a small town, man.
It's crazy,
but
but that's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about that we've gotten a 10,000x performance from Hex with just that amount of people.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
bro. Exactly.
you know, and that's just 100,000 people. I mean, when you think about us getting to 1 million stakers, it's going to be 10x the amount of like economic energy that we were able to produce just during our first 10,000x.
Yeah, and with that incentivization of like the early people, the real believers, the true, you know, fanatics, Hex fanatics, they all get rewarded before Hex goes viral with a big bag of T-shares. And kind of everyone after we hit virality, they're not going to have big bags of T-shares. Like, they're just not.
Yeah.
So that like they can't damage the system that crazily once we go viral anyway. Like, unless you're coming in with millions and millions and millions of dollars of like buy pressure, you're just not going to get those T-shares, fam. You're not. This is like, this little period before we go viral here is so important. Get your bags, get your ladders done, get like everything that you
and this bear market really came in at a good time because I felt like we were already hitting like our pre-viral stage. And then on top of that, we were able to just wash out some of these clown projects and some of these, you know, just some of these lending platforms. You're able to give the crypto space another good lesson on, you know, what's real and what's not real. And like, you know, just kind of wash some of the bad out of the crypto space before we actually start hitting some really big numbers.
Yes.
You know,
I like to think sometimes about Richard, like, and just he's delayed his gratification for so long. We have so many more years of like further delayed like, and it's a good thing. It's not like it's always going to be like delayed. But like, I think about like and this is weird because this ties into Pulse in some weird way, but like the whole reason that Pulse has its name is because of a 14 pulse orgasm.
Yeah, I forgot about it. And it's weird because one of the first times I listened to Richard was actually that episode where he was literally sitting there talking about how to get the most pulses out of your orgasm as possible.
Badass.
But like,
and then a couple months later,
a 15-year-long 14 pulse orgasm with Hex, with Pulsechain, with PulseX. It's like some weird, like, mythic, you know, there's some weird structure to this where it's like
his fucking ego is gonna be stroked till the day he dies, man. Like,
so
thanks, Richard. Thank you so much. Like,
so much dick sucking.
You know how You know how they just started
Oh,
labeling like those food videos, food porn? Like videos of Richard in the future are just going to be considered
Crypto
financial porn.
I love that Richard is like, he's about glory and he wants it, the best. And there's like, he said for a long time he wants the respect that he deserves, basically. After we go viral, I think like it's going to be so fucking overwhelming the amount of dick sucking that people start doing towards Richard. Oh, Richard.
Well, I mean, because naturally,
the best layer 1 chain ever. We love you, Richard. Shut the fuck up, bitch.
Exactly.
Because naturally, like, these people are just so used to having dick in their mouth. Like, they're just used to
that middleman dick,
all that middleman blabber. They're so used to it that, like, even though they'll have to change, they'll just have to have that dick in their mouth. Like,
yes, they'll change from sucking middleman dick just straight to Richard's dick. It's just flip flop.
At least with this dick in my mouth, I don't lose all my money.
Yeah, and you get a 14 pulse, banger at the end of it.
Facts.
It's so funny.
Dude, you're even seeing like the early beginnings of it. Like, have you seen some of BitBoy's tweets and his stance on things recently?
Yeah, he's
that
completely
dude has pivoted.
Yeah, that guy has completely jumped the table and decided I am not going back to that other side.
Yep.
Yeah, I've definitely been watching
about BlackRock like yesterday.
Yeah, because he seems like he's the only Bitcoiner right now that's pissed about the fact that they're getting bought up by these centralized institutions. Like, this is exactly what the fuck Richard was just talking about in the space last week.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you have all this market product fit whenever your code is shitty and most of your coins are owned by fucking douchebags.
Yep.
Like, it's not good for the value of your coin, especially when everybody's already bought it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard enough to bring economic energy in without you guys sucking at everything else. Like, and it's
Facts.
Just
facts.
and so, like, it's definitely gonna start. I think Richard was probably some of the first of, like, the Bitcoin maximalist side to start seeing it. But I think slowly over time, like, it's like Wales always said, there's no fucking choice. Like, they're gonna get tired of not making the gains that they used to make, being over in that coin.
Yeah.
It's a shame to, like, grow with something and have to realize, like, hey, it's not it anymore.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, some people got to chill on the maximalist side, because you're just bringing people in who are going to hate their experience and exposure to the space, because you brought them into something that's already been bought up, has shitty code, and requires you to suck a bunch of middleman dick just to use.
Yep.
It's nobody. And speaking of, I'm not sure if you saw this morning, but it looks like Hex finally got like a fiat on ramp.
Yes.
So
that's a big fucking deal. We have been waiting a long time. Hexologist has it up on his Twitter.
Yeah, let me see here. Just trying to remember what it was called. So Simplex. If you go to the Simplex website, you can navigate from there. But basically, you don't have to go through exchanges to buy Ethereum, to send to your MetaMask, to swap for Hex, and then stake it. Now you're going to be able to put in your credit card information, buy Hex, and it's automatically sent to your MetaMask. So it'll be ready to stake almost immediately. Of course, you'll have to have that Ethereum or Pulsechain whenever it comes out, just to obviously use the network. But you're not going to have to go through exchanges anymore. You'll be able to buy directly from Simplex. I believe the company comes out of Israel or something like that. I can't. He said something about that. But yeah, that's really exciting, because I know we've all been waiting, especially for us over here in America. I know they've had other things that have allowed people to kind of get directly into it, but now we've got a fiat on ramp. So wall's coming down a little bit. little bit easier accessibility for those people that are new and can't really navigate through the 8 steps of getting your hex and staking it. But yeah, that's really exciting. Hex is really exciting. Yeah, hex price. But I don't want to keep you guys all night, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on. Hedron. I want to go through the Hedron contract because for anybody who's going to buy and stake hex, you're going to have Hedron that is accruing with your stakes. Now you have to stake because Hedron is created from the hex stakes. But if you're staked, you're going to be making Hedron too. So to kind of hit on that point, if you're buying before Pulsechain, you're almost getting a 4-for-1 because you buy hex, you stake it, and then you get your Hedron on top of that, and then both of those are copied over to the Pulsechain network. So just as a reminder, if you don't know what Hedron is, I would recommend going to it, hedron.pro, and just kind of looking over this contract. But we're going to talk about it, kind of talk about what it does, what it is, and how you can get it. So there are 3 major features: minting, borrowing, and tokenizing. The minting is what is created from your hex stakes. There is a borrowing feature that I'll kind of go into. It's not something I'm really into. Basically, just allows you to leverage your stakes for basically instant liquidity. And then the tokenizing is basically being able to wrap your stakes into NFTs and being able to sell those without necessarily having to end that stake, which I think is really bullish for Hex. Because instead of people having to end their stakes, they could keep those stakes continuously going and just wrap them up and sell them without having to actually end that stake. So I think that's bullish. But let's just talk about minting. So if let's say you create a stake and you get 500 B shares, it's going to be your B shares times your days served. If you got in during the original bonus stage, you had some kind of multiplier that you could get with it that would be multiplied with it. So it would be your B shares times your days served times the amount of multiplier that you have, whether it's a 10x, 9x, 8x, wherever you happen to get in. But for people that are coming in today and forward, you're not going to be able to get that multiplier. So it's just going to be your amount of B shares times the amount of days served. So if you got 100 B shares and you serve 500 days, you're going to get 50,000 Hedron out of that. You can mint that whenever you want, and you're still going to be minting it going forward or you're still going to be able to create it going forward in your stake, but you're not going to be able to. But basically, you're not going to get that amount that you originally minted. So, for example, if if you have 100 B shares and you originally minted that 50,000 Hedron, whenever you get to 600 days, it'll just be the B shares times that 600 days minus the original 500 days that you already minted. So the Hedron is created all the way through your stake, and you can mint this Hedron anytime through your stake. But if you ESS or emergency in stake, and or you don't mint it before your stake is over, you basically forfeit that Hedron. So just a lesson to be learned: if you want your Hedron, you better mint it before that stake is over.
I literally have a sticky note on my desk right under my computer monitor that says claim Hedron, don't forget, every single time. You have to claim it, get it, stack it, put it away.
Yeah, do not forget to claim your Hedron. It's automatically created through your stakes. It's yours for the taking. Just make sure that you do it before you ESS or end the stake, or you're literally just forfeiting free money. So don't do that. Tokenizing. Hedron is capable of encapsulating a hex stake inside what we call a hex stake instance, or HSI contract. This contract is a single-use solidity smart contract that has one purpose: to house a singular hex stake. These contracts are deployed and managed by the hex stake instance manager, HSIM. That address is up here, so you can always go look at that thing in Etherscan to see what kind of action it's having. When the hex stake inside an HSI contract is ended, the HSI contract itself is destroyed. These HSI contracts have their own Ethereum Pulsechain address and interface directly with the hex to facilitate starting a hex stake, ending a hex stake, and exposing the hex good accounting feature to the user. While these contracts do have addresses on their respective blockchains, they do not have private keys of any sort. Control over the HSI contract is mapped to the user's wallet via the HSIM contract. The user has the option to tokenize an HSI contract into an ERC 721 NFT token. This token can be transferred to another wallet of their choosing, whether it be via direct transfer or via sale on a compatible NFT marketplace. The receiver of this HSI NFT can be then opt to detokenize it, giving them full control of the HSI contract and subsequently the hex stake contained within. So this is personally not. I understand the concept of this, but it's. I've never played with NFTs. I've never felt the need to wrap my stake for anything. So this is personally something that I've just never played with. So I wanted to go through it, but I don't have enough experience with it to say like other than the part where it just basically allows people to trade their stakes without ending it. I don't know a whole lot about it, to be completely honest. But I do see a lot of utility. There's going to be people in the future that want to sell those hex stakes, and depending on how many T-shares there are, how long they are, you can kind of play with what that's actually worth, and so it creates a lot of utility, accessibility, or just things for people who aren't, basically just things for people to play with. Just adds an extra edge to all the stuff surrounding the hex economy already. Borrowing, yeah, like I said, this is not something that I think I'll personally. Well, I guess it depends. Because the borrowing mechanism basically allows you to just leverage your hex stakes to get instant liquidity. But as the warning says right here, borrowing has intrinsic risk. If you fail to meet your installment obligations before the default threshold, 90 Hedron days, your position can be liquidated by other users of the Hedron protocol and your hex stake forfeited to them. Hedron itself does not liquidate borrowers. It instead leaves the task to the users of the protocol. Borrowing is an advanced feature intended only for users who can adequately manage its affiliated risk. We do not advise any user attempt to use this feature without having a complete understanding of its risk. So yeah, basically just creates a borrowing function built on top of the hex contract. And I think that's really cool. Like I said, adds utility, adds accessibility, allows people to get instant liquidity from their stakes. But like it says there, make sure you're reading this and you fully understand what's going to be owed back to the Hedron contract, because, if you don't want your stakes being put up on a marketplace, people are going to buy those up. So yeah, we could talk about Hedron a little bit now. What do you think about it, Mac? How bullish are you on this?
I don't know how bullish I am on it. I mean, over the long term, obviously, I'm bullish on it, but in the short term, I don't know if it's gonna do anything before we have the next hex leg up here. It being tied as well, like liquidity wise to hex, it's gonna get pulled up if hex goes up anyway. So
yeah,
that might be a reason to be bullish on it. But like just like you, like I don't need to borrow anything.
yeah,
I don't need to I maybe be interested in like making some HSI stakes and having them to be able to like sell or trade in the future. But with Hedron, like what it's doing is it's basically building like a derivatives market on top of Hex.
Yeah.
So you can have like these financial NFTs, which are HSI stakes, and people will trade them. I'm sure that there's going to be a market where people are just trading HSI stakes back up. In like 5-ish years, when you can't get T-shares anymore, and this is the only way for a bunch of people who will never have a T-share because they haven't staked their hex in enough time, they weren't paying enough attention in the beginning, whatever. This is going to be the way to like bring T-shares to those people that, you know, are serious about that kind of stuff. So I think that over the long term, like I've always said, I think Hedron did the best in terms of like marketing and bringing their product to the market. Alex got all of this stuff audited. He was a very humble guy. He's built some like NFTs with utility, which is rare in this market.
I am really interested in the staking though, because being able to mint that Hedron and do something with it other than just wanting to sell it for something is really bullish. And especially if you're going to be making a, you know, just depending on what kind of APY it's going to be paying out for that staking. Another way to build up on top of what you already have, you know, without having to do much. So there is going to be some kind of staking mechanism that does come out with Hedron. I think that's part of the reason it's had some a little bit of bullish price action.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of it. I'm not sure it's a trend reversal yet, but we're certainly up from where the bottom was back in June-ish.
Yeah, June. It's somewhere about. Yeah, I mean it hit really low prices. I should have bought a bag back here just for the hell of it.
What I would say is that like if you are bullish on it, like get a bag. You know, we're not that much off the bottom right now.
Yeah.
Really, even if you go back to the beginning, like the launch, we're almost at launch price again.
Yeah. And the best thing
just above launch price.
The best thing about Hedron is that I'm getting my bag just from, you know, loving my favorite coin Hex. That's right. You know, that's just straight up the most bullish thing about it. I mean, you know, it's providing free liquidity and it's backed by the value of my favorite coin. So, you know, outside of that, you know, the borrowing and tokenizing mechanisms, I don't really know much about, but I think long term, I'm definitely bullish on this. And I definitely think it has, you know, it's like you said, that derivative market that it's creating for people who have different ideas or different wants inside the Hex community. So, yeah, really cool contract. Like you said,
Shout out to Alex too.
Like, yeah, for real.
Everything with Icosa and everything that like, it's interesting because like when you launch a product, I think that you go through all of the levels of it in your mind. Like, oh, okay, this is what's going to potentially happen. This could happen. This could happen. And then you put it in the hands of people, and then like they use it in a way that you might not have thought, or you like it might not have all been thought out perfectly the first time. But if you can then like it's like little ladders, or like you're maybe it's like attachments on a gun. Like you've got a gun, right? But then you put the scope on the gun. Then you put the long barrel on the fucking gun. Then you put the grenade launcher on the gun. And then by like the end of it, you have a full-blown machine gun. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. So, I understand what this is. Like
totally off topic. Totally off topic, but I saw this thing this morning. And you know how they've been doing like those gun buybacks in the US? Well, like somebody in Houston just 3D printed a bunch of fake guns that didn't even work and went and basically sold a bunch of them for a bunch of free money. and then they like came out and said like it literally showed one article where it was like, we need to get these like basically these 3D printed weapons off the street. And then the next article was like, we can't keep buying these 3D printed weapons. It's hilarious. I don't know why.
I mean, they can outlaw all of that shit all they fucking want, man. Humanity is going to find a way around your stupid fucking laws. and then going to find a way around
one of the posts below it were just like, print guns, not money.
Get yourself some free fucking guns out of thin air, basically. That's so good. I'm gonna have a massive when I build my compound, I'm gonna have like a massive 3D like printing factory / studio at that place. Fucking
for real. But
I'm not gonna be printing guns, but wink.
I'm gonna go ahead and move on to Maximus here. Maximus, man, I don't understand everything about it, but man, like this thing makes Hex even more bullish. I
Oh my
mean, when you
god,
have
yeah.
when you have people of the community that come together, pool together, that don't necessarily have a whole lot of money, that don't necessarily have, the amount of liquidity to be able to get, that staking bonus for, having larger amounts of Hex. I mean, we pulled together, I think, I forgot how many days it was, but we got 200 million Hex off the market for 15 years because of this project.
Like a 250 million fucking sell pressure,
Yeah.
basically. That's
Yeah.
insane. It's
Just off the
insane.
gone. It's gone for 15 years.
Gone. Think about what that means in terms of the inflation too. Like all of that, like 200 million that could have been staked for like 5 years, all that inflation's gone too. Like
it's gone.
it's gone. It's gone.
Like,
It's been sent into the future.
and can you imagine, like, when that kind of ROI is being paid out to the system? Like, this thing isn't just delaying the inflation that we have now. It's gonna dilute people so much more further whenever whenever that contract hits the market. So,
Yeah.
um,
And who
yeah,
knows, in 15 years, fiat might be fucking dead.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a factor.
Wouldn't that be a fucking blessing? And then like there's no more sell price because like we're just operating in crypto at that point. Like
I sure do hope so.
me
Like,
too, bro.
I hope that fiat is just gone in a couple years, because I mean, I know it's gonna take time for something like that to actually like dissipate, but like
Yeah.
when you get into things like Hex, you start to look at the rest of the world's economy, and how people are utilizing that financial system and how much they're struggling
Yeah.
to get just the littlest amount of something that just doesn't have their best interest in mind at all.
I kind of
It's
see the legacy system a bit like Bitcoin and spaghetti code. Like if like the legacy system feels like just old and outdated and trash and fucking like it's not scalable, it doesn't work. You can print money endlessly, but like nothing, then everything loses its value. It's like what, like this thing has to fucking like cannibalize itself. It needs to kill it, like it needs to commit suicide, basically. Like the legacy
Yeah,
system
and that's
has
basically
to
what it's
fucking die.
in a sense. That's basically what it's already doing.
Yes, we're
Um,
watching it in slow motion.
yeah, I mean, it's already just slowly going down the drain.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, I'll get
If these
started.
if the globalists get their, Agenda 2030 thing really under, they get going with that, that's central bank digital currencies by 2030. I know
Oh
that
yeah,
that's, you
yeah,
know,
definitely.
that is the death of
I mean,
fiat at that point.
you're already seeing, like, and I know they said it's probably going to be backed like by actual material, like metals and minerals and whatnot. But
Mhm.
you've seen like Russia and China trying to come together to create their own like
Absolutely.
system to try to depeg from Western financialization.
Yep.
So I mean, the race for the best currencies is in full out. I mean, everybody's sprinting for it right now.
Yep.
And obviously, in my opinion, Richard Hart is just way ahead in that race. Um,
It's
but
not even a question. It's not even a competition. Like it's
like
kind of embarrassing, honestly.
people people
Everything
are
else.
people are just so used to following the bigger institutions and the governments for this kind of problem that they can't actually see what's right in front of them.
Mhm.
It's kind of sad to watch too, because it feels like we have really good solutions to really big problems, and people are just feeding on the bullshit that kind of
Yes.
just keeps them right in front of those like big problems without even trying to look at, like, what could be better.
Absolutely. If you think about where all the innovation happens, it's certainly not in the fucking government. Like that is the last place where innovation it comes to fruition, basically. Where things come to like fruition and where there is true innovation is in the private sector. And we're in that
Hmm.
in crypto. Like this is your money. Like this is not government money. This is your private money for you. Where do you think the innovation is? It's right fucking here. It's here. It's not going to be a government going, oh, guys, look at our new currency. Isn't it fantastic? You all want a part of it. Fuck off. Fuck off. You've already fucked this last system. I have zero faith in anything that you build in the future.
And that's like the biggest problem we're having is, somebody posted it on Twitter the other day, but it's like, it was like a video where he was explaining why like science has kind of stopped evolving itself. And I think like economics is kind of the same reason, like people kind of look for this like peer reviewed innovation, and it just doesn't really exist, because like anything that's peer reviewed is going to be centralized by the ideologies running that peer review. And so whenever you have innovation that's going on the fringes, not in the places that are right in the center of all of that centralization, people can't really see it, because that's where they're always used to like, it's crazy. Like you get all these, PhDs and people coming out of college, and they're so used to the academia that they forget what actual science is. Like it's crazy.
And how that translates to actual reality. Like, it's nice to be in theories and concepts and ideas, but like I just said about like Hedron, like you can theorize a bunch of stuff and then you put it in the hands of people, and they're going to tell you what is up. They're going to tell you that in the price chart, in the reception to, how good a thing is, how bad a thing is, what people like, what they don't like. None of the no politicians or scientists are thinking about that. It's all like, this has got to be empirical and it's got to be peer reviewed. And like academia and that world, I feel like everyone just loves the smell of their own fucking shit.
Yeah.
And if you stay in that world long enough, they'll convince you that you like the smell of their shit too. And it's like, it's just this big circle jerk of like, oh, let me smell that fucking shit. Like, it's disgusting. Like, it doesn't go anywhere and it doesn't achieve anything. Yeah. And then you have someone like Richard, and this guy's like minted just endless amounts of millionaires just with the design of his own product. And it's like,
this guy doesn't mint millions of dollars. He literally just mints millionaires. Like, that's crazy.
You're the scammer, bro. Get fucked.
That's crazy.
It is.
Let me go through this real quick before we get caught up for another hour, because we got Pulsechain and PulseX to still go through.
Let's go.
But real quick, Maximus DAO is a smart contract that facilitates trustless pooling of a max length hex stake. 100% of Maxi token supply is generated during a one-time 14-day mint phase, where anyone may choose to mint one Maxi per hex pledged to the Maximus contract. Once the mint phase ends, the smart contract will execute a single 5,555-day stake with all the hex used to mint Maxi. Once that stake has ended, users may redeem their portion of the hex stake principal, and earned interest. That also includes the Hedron that is minted from those stakes. So basically, if you put into one of these pools and you have a certain amount of these Maxi coins created at a 1-to-1 ratio, holding that Maxi token is going to allow you to redeem at the end of that 15-year stake the amount of hex and Hedron that was minted from that one single token being staked in that contract. Now, of course, you're going to have more tokens than that, because one token doesn't cost a whole lot. But it does a little bit more than that, because this right here, let's say you're given your Maxi tokens, it's going to follow that reserve value of hex because it was minted at that 1-to-1 ratio. But like Richard always says, the only thing that affects price is buying and selling. So the market psychology will follow that reserve value, but it won't always follow the exact price. What that's going to create is premiums and discounts to buy and sell these bags between Hex and Maximus, so you can actually grow these bags over time, giving yourself more Maxi than you originally put in to redeem even more at the end of this 15-year stake. And then obviously all of that is going to be bullish for Hex in the end, because again, we have 200 million Hex just taken off the market, and now we've got 200 million Maxi floating around at discounts and premiums that people are going to be buying in and selling into these bags to try to get the max amount as they can. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this contract. And the fact that they're getting ready to drop, because this Maximus is the 15-year stake. They're getting ready to create similar contracts for 2-year stakes, 5-year stakes, and 7-year stakes, I believe. Was that right?
I think it's 7, yeah.
So, yeah, something like that. So same concept for those. You're gonna be able to get these tokens by putting into the original minting phase. And then you're going to be able to buy and sell these premiums and discounts to try to grow that bag over time so that you can redeem it at the end of those stakes. And again, those stakes are going to be creating Hex and Hedron over time. So just creating all types of different vectors to come in and try to grow your bags over time. I wish it was easier to put into words, because I really like this contract a lot.
Me too.
It allows the smaller guys to come together and be bigger guys.
Yes.
And that ultimately adds more competition to the markets, and that ultimately adds more value to the markets. Competition's always great for markets, and the more competition that we can create with the smaller guys, the more it incentivizes and forces the bigger guys to have better market behavior. So kind of goes back to what we originally talked about with what kind of incentives are being built into these contracts, because that is the game theory. How can you get people's market psychology to line up with their ideas and their beliefs?
What these are all going to do as well is just remove more liquid supply of Hex off the market.
Exactly. And you're literally making everything more scarce and following the same security model as Hex. So again, completely decentralized, locked, isolated, no admin key. So same security model, but adding scarcity, adding competition, and then obviously just adding ways for you to make more yield. So yeah.
Just another little one in there is that, like, this is just primed and ready for a duplication on Pulsechain.
Yeah.
You're not wrong there.
Yeah.
So, like, you're ready to have your Maxi on 2 chains. You're ready to have your 2-year, your 5-year, your 7 years, and duplicated, and all that supply pulled off the market on both chains.
Yeah.
It's fucking bullish. It's fucking bullish.
I mean, and it's just wild too, because I don't know. I already liked the idea of Maxi before they just started adding the 7 and 5 in 2 years, because now you're basically doing the same exact thing, but pulling in a larger market of people that don't necessarily want to wait for 15 years. Richard said in an interview, probably it was when we were still going up, so or not even an interview, it's just a live stream, but he said, all right guys, it's up to y'all, get out there and build. And these are the people that are putting better things in front of Hex. This is what's going to bring in adoption. It's what's going to add to that competition, add to the value, force scarcity, and then again just gives you more ways to make yield. So shout out to Alex from Hedron. Shout out to the Maxi creators. You guys are doing a lot of hard work on the front ends, and bringing more things to Hex, bringing more people into the ecosystem. These two projects, they kind of lie on the outskirts of what people talk about, and I think both of them add a lot of value to the Hex community. So I really wanted to go over them today for that reason. But I can go ahead and hop over to Pulsechain. A lot of us already know what Pulsechain is, but I just kind of wanted to go over it for people that don't really know what it is yet. So Hex is built on top of Ethereum. Anytime you buy Hex or you stake it, you're doing those functions on the Ethereum network. Ethereum has its problems. It's created too high of gas fees. You could also do some things to make the transactions a little faster. So that's exactly what Richard did. He's taking Ethereum's code, exactly how it is, and he's fixing what he doesn't like about it. And so what are the goals behind that? So increasing Ethereum's value. So this isn't just some Ethereum killer. It's actually to take off some of the load, and it will actually help Ethereum with some of those fee issues. Enrich Ethereum users. Pulsechain will re-enable priced out use cases instead of launching empty. Pulsechain brings the ETH system state and ERC20s. This rewards holders and founders of Ethereum-based projects. Enrich ERC20 and NFT users. The launch of Pulsechain is the largest airdrop in history. Thousands of Ethereum-based tokens and NFTs received their free Pulsechain versions. This new gold rush contains the value discovery of thousands of tokens and NFTs on Pulsechain. If you always wanted to be a whale in a certain ERC20 or NFT, maybe now you can be. Because if you hold anything like Hex or any other ERC20 that's on the Ethereum network, you're literally about to get free copies on Pulsechain. And, these things are going to do their own thing on the network. They're going to have their own price discovery based on, how many people are using it, how many people come over to Pulsechain, and it's just going to kind of do its own thing. So it could provide the opportunity for you to get a better position in these coins if you're paying attention and you're there when this thing launches, because there's no telling what people are going to do on that network. They could be thinking exactly how you are, and these prices go higher than they even are on Ethereum. So a lot of possibilities on what this creates. Easy to use. Your MetaMask wallet just works. You only have to change the single setting to access Pulsechain. ETH holders can transact for free with freemium Pulse. So you open up your MetaMask, you go to network, you click on Pulsechain, boom, it works. You have all your free coins. It's really going to be that simple. This thing's going to launch. You're going to be able to just switch the network setting, and then you're going to have all these other free coins and a brand new network to operate on. Lower Pulsechain fees. This is the big one. Pulsechain increases the throughput of Ethereum for X by using 3 second block times. Ethereum's average block time is around 13 seconds. Do you know what it's been running on testnet?
I did watch a David Feeder was playing around with the Cosa. He did a video the other day. I think 3 seconds.
Yeah. So I know because I know it was already lower. So I know on testnet, we're already hitting better block times. So a lot of these goals we can already see on testnet. They already work. They're already,
and like David was sitting there playing with it, and he was like, he clicked the confirm transaction button, and then he counted out loud 1, 2, 3, and you saw the little thing pop up as he said 3. It was like, yep, there we go. Smooth, like butter.
Removing pollution by replacing proof of work miners with proof of stake validators. Pulsechain doesn't burn, waste any energy, making it environmentally friendly. This is a big one because this also allows us to kind of head into the into the game theory right here. Pulse has 0% inflation, and validators only earn fees, and 25% of the fees are burnt to reduce the circulating supply. So moving to this, proof of, this proof of weight system as opposed to the proof of work, it allows us to add a little bit of extra game theory in here, because now we get into like the delegating and the political infrastructure that's kind of being built in the Pulsechain. It's not going to be all the fees that are being made on the network aren't going to be by these huge centralized mining companies. It's going to be people that are being delegated to by the community. And if they're not following the standards that are set by this community, all they have to do is remove their delegations, and those people no longer get to make those fees on the network. So again, incentives being built into the code. How can we get the people who are making all the fees on these networks to act in our best interest? And that's exactly what is being created here on Pulsechain. There are not only incentives for the validators to get delegated towards because they're making fees, but it also incentivizes people that are within the network, smaller guys, to actually be a part of this, kind of this political infrastructure by staking, because there is going to be revenue share. These delegators that are making certain fees, they're going to be able to put up a certain percentage of those fees that they're making to be paid out and ratioed to the people that are delegating to them. So, in a way that you're getting paid out in Hex by just staking, making that, making that inflation and penalties. By delegating, you're going to be making a certain percentage of all the fees that are being ran by whoever you're delegating to. And you don't have to delegate to just one person either. You could delegate to multiple people across the network who are going to have different revenue shares, different sized pools. Bringing in, because and that's what's going to make it interesting is, you're going to have the factor of which of these validators are bringing in the most fees, and how much of that revenue is being paid out versus who has the least amount, so that I can, or who has the least amount of delegation so that I can have a bigger position in this delegating pool. So you're going to have a whole bunch of different factors that are incentivizing decentralization in the validator process. And I think that's, Pulsechain just has mind-blowing, incredible game theory that just creates a whole ecosystem of a lot more honesty that really allows Hex to thrive. So again, something else just extremely bullish for Hex, and honestly just bullish within itself. Just working on the test net, I can already tell that this thing is better than Ethereum, and this thing's sitting at $1,300. So
here's the opportunity, family. It's right here.
I mean, and and it literally says it. If you never got a chance to be an Ethereum whale, which are probably some of the richest people on the planet right now, like you have an opportunity to be a whale in Pulsechain. Because these prices are going to be low. Even if you didn't get to sacrifice, we're launching from zero. So get in, get your coins quick.
For me personally, I'm going to be taking every single goddamn fucking pulse I can get off the market, and it's never going anywhere. It's never going anywhere. I'm going to take as much as I can get.
I'm extremely bullish on Pulsechain.
Yeah, me too.
As you should be.
Yes, that's right. Just a little game theory thing here. So, like, you have Hex, right? And that's a consistently expanding world because of the inflation in the system. The Hex it's always going to expand, right? So you have this expanding into infinity, basically. But on the flip side of that, you have Pulsechain, which is constantly contracting. All of the pulse is going to get burnt out of existence. It's going to get burnt. It's going to get burnt. It's going to get burnt. It's going to get burnt to the point where, like, you have this balancing in the system. Hex is expanding all the time, and Pulse is contracting all the time.
Yeah,
and it's like a seesaw. And so, like, okay, we have inflation in Hex, but if it's counterbalanced by the deflation in Pulsechain, like, I don't think people have, like, comprehended that quite fully yet.
I see what you mean.
Because
it's going to be crazy.
Yes. Like, and some people are going like, oh, Pulsechain won't ever get above like $1 or $5. Motherfucker, that shit is going to get burnt out of existence. Look, I will sit on testnet every goddamn day for the next 10 years and just burn Pulse out of existence to get this thing down to nothing. Like, I'm going to make that shit happen. So, like,
he's going to make test Pulse have a real price, bro. That's crazy.
Dude,
That's
I'm just going to make one day, one Hex stakes for a day, every single day. Because the fees are fucking nothing. Like the fees are nothing.
Yeah, dude, they're gonna be. Oh god, It's gonna be so much easier to make like a hex ladder too.
Oh my gosh, dude! You could make a hex ladder with like 2 pulse.
Probably not even that. You could probably make a hex ladder with like 1 pulse.
Lights Out, like he's been playing on testnet, and I think he had like 100 pulse or something. And because pulse is already valued higher on the testnet as well, like there's slightly different nuances with that kind of shit. But like I think he was like,
Our number 1
I tried,
fan, guys.
Hey,
what's up, human hex trafficker?
Hex trafficker. What's
Good to
up?
see you.
He traffics hex.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Lights Out tried to spend all of the pulse that he had in his wallet, and he was like, I couldn't spend it all. Like, and I think he only had like a 1 or 2 pulse in there. It's like he got down from 1 pulse to like 0.75 pulse. He was like, I've done everything. I can't do anything. Like I can't spend any more of this.
Oh god, yeah. And it's just it and you have, like the Maximus contract where you're never going to know when you want to trade between those values. You never know when you're going to want to mint your Hedron. You never know when you're going to want to buy more hex, stake more hex. I mean, just being a part of this ecosystem, there is so many functions that you could run on these networks. And those fees over time will stack up on you. I mean, I was staking when we were at $30-$40 gas fees, and God knows how much money people have lost over time to gas fees.
Absolutely.
that could have stayed within the ecosystem. So it isn't just it's cheaper to do these things. It's that more economic energy is going to stay within the ecosystem instead of going to a bunch of middleman cocksucking miners.
Facts.
Like, we don't need all
Give
that
it another
extra
10
shit.
years and we can have another fork of this shit again, and we can do it all over a fucking game.
Yeah, let's do it again.
That's what Richard
It's like
said,
that
like we've
it's
had
like
the
that.
Hex, we've had the Ethereum, we've done that. We don't need to keep pumping shit like billions and billions and billions of dollars into something that's not going to move the price at all. Let's just reset. Let's reset. Let's do it again. This time it's Hex, it's Pulse, and it's PulseX. And we get to do the whole fucking 10-year ride that they just had in crypto over again from the beginning, basically.
Yeah.
But this time with better game theory, this time with better incentives, this time with better technology, this time
with better everything, just better fucking people in general that have more aligned
toxic Maxis. Look, we still got some of them. We got to clear them out. But like once those fuckheads fuck off, this is like what's happening here is like high literature or poetry or something on the fucking blockchain. Like there's a beauty and elegance in this,
because there is no. It isn't even as like confusing as crypto felt like it was like originally, because like Bitcoin and Ethereum, it just felt like
the hashing algorithms, the fucking the rip, like get the fuck out of here with that.
Just a whole bunch of like extra shit that made it more complicated for people that didn't understand it, as opposed to like, hey, we have multiple ways for you to earn yield. Come play with these cool websites and see how to do it.
Yes, look at how hard Ethereum is facing, like struggling to scale.
And the front ends are just so much more appealing.
Clean, the UI is better.
Easy
We're gonna
to
have
use.
a better block explorer, yes.
Like good explanations on the websites, like
a better wallet that stores all your transaction history inside the actual wallet. Like,
yeah.
This is like a crypto renaissance in some ways. Like, okay, we've done the, like, we've had the little initial beginning of it. It kind of worked, and like, okay, we can learn all those lessons, and then we can like build another, like, this is the real one where it's like, okay, virality, mass adoption, legacy is like on its last legs. This is it. This is going to be like such a big part of the fucking future.
Yeah.
People are sleeping on it.
Straight sleep. They're just straight sleeping on it. But bridging. ETH on Pulsechain, you can send ETH to Pulsechain contract on ETH, which locks it and issues PETH, Pulse ETH on Pulsechain at a 1-to-1 ratio. Pulse on Ethereum, you can send Pulse to the ETH bridge contract on the Pulsechain, which locks it and issues ePulse, Ethereum Pulse, on Ethereum network 1-to-1. This can also work for ERC20s. So yes, there is going to be bridges that allow you to trade between the two networks. Trading thousands of ERC20 tokens on Pulsechain can trade on Pulsechain Uniswap. That's basically going to be PulseX. We'll get into that in a minute. Since Ethereum state is included, there will be a ePulse ETH pair on Uniswap on the Ethereum network and a PETH Pulse pair on Uniswap on the Pulsechain network, which is PulseX. There may be ePulse trading pairs on other smart contract enabled chains. Exchanges may list Pulse and any of the thousands of tokens on the Pulsechain network. So yeah, Pulsechain, really bullish. It's going to have all the accessibility features you need to not only get your free tokens and be able to get yield and all that other stuff, but also if you like Pulsechain and you would rather have your value on it instead of Ethereum, you're going to have the ability and option to do that. Also, we do have testnet. So if you guys ever want to go play with testnet, just go to pulsechain.com. It'll give you this network name. It will tell you everything you need to know to insert into your MetaMask network settings, and you can go directly to the testnet and play with it. And I highly recommend that you do, because you're going to want to know what the hell you're doing when this thing drops. Nobody's waiting on you. The market isn't waiting on you. You 110% need to know how to use this thing before it comes out, because there's going to be things you're going to want to do on it when it does drop. Over to PulseX. Volume bonus. So PulseX is going to be Pulsechain's exchange. PulseX enables you to exchange tokens, PRC20s, on Pulsechain for another one. For example, you could swap Pulsechain's native token Pulse for PulseX's token PulseX. It works like Uniswap on Ethereum. Bridges also let people trade currencies from other chains on PulseX. The world's largest yield farm. Every time people swap from one coin to another on PulseX, liquidity providers earn fees as a reward. Users can bridge in their ERC20s and pair them with their with their free PRC20s in order to provide liquidity and earn fees. This also backs the value of the PRC20s they got for free. The second PulseX incentive token. In order to enhance PulseX's success, another token will exist to further incentivize liquidity providers beyond the fees they're already making. When they become liquidity providers, they will receive LP tokens that they can deposit into a yield farm. This not yet named token is emitted with decreasing inflation over time. A DAO chooses which trading pairs receive this incentive and at what rates. Only addresses with PulseX balances get to vote in the DAO. So, again, just more political infrastructure being built into these networks. PulseX's goal. PulseX is a Uniswap fork with PulseX liquidity provider incentivization. That's what we've been talking about all stream, incentive, again, being built into this code. Its goal is to provide Pulsechain users with the best possible trading experience and yield farm, with a strong focus on incentivizing ERC20 holders to bridge in and back the value of their free PRC20s. So, I mean, just wow. PulseX.
Enough said.
PulseX is. It's just the fucking cherry on top. It's like he was like, I'm gonna put all this incredible shit together, and then was like, PulseX, just slapped it right on top. Like just the most elegant part of it. Like he just. I don't know how to put it in words.
We were talking about earlier with all the other coins and like the lack of game theory. That's what separates Richard's products from his ecosystem, his products. These things are well thought out for long-term games.
And
Like,
he understands market psychology so well that he's been able to use that and software to kind of start incentivizing people to kind of get away from these toxic usages of markets. And
yep,
so, incentivizing people to have better behavior economically and, just start forcing people to start living like healthier lives. Because it all starts here. Money is a form of communication. And if your form of that communication is toxic, your communication in other parts of your life is going to be toxic as well. Whether it's,
that's so true.
whether it's, the communication with yourself, communication with your family, your friends, your other loved ones. I mean, when money has us so separated into our own individual problems because we're all just trying to survive, like it's important that I think that it's really important that we start building good behaviors into our finances, because if we don't, we can't start building good behaviors into other things, because our finances is what funds those other things. It's what gets those other things going. So like game theory and the incentivization that Richard's trying to build into people to get them to act, behave in better ways in these markets is just absolutely incredible, because it's not necessarily just behaving, but it's just like also like helping, like it's rewarding people for doing things that are helping other people, to
Correct.
adding value to something. um
It's Wales said this once, and you're aligning a bunch of incentives. And you said it earlier, like it's the alignment of good, healthy incentives that work not just well for you, but for your family, for your friends, for any human being that wants to interact with these things. Like, delaying gratification is a great thing. Having like a future to look forward to is a great thing. How many people don't have those things currently in their life, in their world? And they're spending all of this energy and stress and anxiety on wondering, when's the next paycheck coming? How do I pay the mortgage? How do I do the bills? How do I do this? How do I go and do my dreams? How do I go and live life? All of the incentives in the legacy system are misaligned, completely and utterly misaligned. And that's on purpose, as by design in that system. We're seeing that slow transition from, bad incentive alignment to good incentive alignment. And if you can codify that and you can put it on an immutable blockchain that won't change for decades and decades and decades, oh, you may have just like altered the course of human history by doing shit like this. Quite literally.
yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah, and because it's simply because we've never had that.
yes,
We have, I mean, the evolution of humanity up to this point has been driven by very large centralization. And I think that that has done good things for us, but it's also forced us to continue to depend on unsustainable factors of that centralization.
yes,
The manipulation of control, the manipulation of money, the manipulation of people's individual ideologies. These are things that unfortunately have rendered our current ways of living unsustainable. And so how do we create things that allow us to keep that ability and strong collective force to kind of drive things forward without having the puppet strings, without having the people up
yes.
here who don't have to be incentivized by the same things that we do to keep this system running.
Absolutely. And
um
in part of that control that they have on the system, that suppresses the brilliance of humanity. Like, you probably have like an Einstein or an equivalent mind working in some fucking warehouse right now that can't go out and be a fucking Einstein in this world
yep.
because they're worried about their bills and their
And it,
stresses
it
and their
goes it
anxieties.
goes
Like,
it goes back to what I was saying before about how innovation a lot of times it's coming from the fringes, it's coming from the outside, it's coming from
yes.
places that we're not looking. And so when we're all so when
Myopic, and we're looking at right in directly down a
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
tube at one thing, and that's what this COVID nonsense has been. Like, oh, guys, I don't know any other way to make billions of dollars. Let's create a thing and then let's market a thing. It's like, no, just figure out a better way to make billions of dollars, you dummies. Like, look at what Richard's done.
It's literally funneling people's ideologies through a lens.
Yes,
it's funneling, not even like at this point, it's just straight up funneling their fucking logic through a lens.
Everything. Like, their thinking mind, their ability to be a free human being. You're this narrow channel of like, you're forcing everything down this narrow channel. Well, what happens when you try and force too much shit down a narrow channel? It just fucking explodes. Like
it gets clogged. It gets clogged. It can't go any further.
Retarded.
And
and then the spillage, the slip over has to go somewhere eventually. It's like, you can't just like fucking force it down this thing all the time.
And then you've got all these parts of this system that make it work falling through the cracks.
Yes.
And that's the biggest part, is that like you don't just have all these people that end up with all the power. You end up with so many people with so little power that the people that help us function the most end up sliding through the cracks. You can't help them, and then they become unhelpable to the system. And it's just like, look at what unemployment is doing right now. You have
burden.
You have
already narrow.
You have companies. You have companies that are offering wages higher than they've been offering for the past 20 30, ever at this point. And they still can't get people to come in, because you have so many people who have just been handed free money through all this government printing. And that's kind of what I mean by falling through the cracks. And now it has rendered these people like unhelpful to society. And it's not good. And it all starts with the incentives. They're not being incentivized to go out and work. They're not being, because why the fuck does anybody want to work when none of us are getting paid for our value? When we're not getting paid, and you
getting
have
paid
to,
in something that's losing its value every fucking second and minute. Like, let me go out and work for something that by the time that I've got my $500, it's only worth $450 because you've just printed out the fucking wazoo another $100 billion. Like, it has no value. Like,
people's work is most effective when it is valued. You know? And so, when people feel valued, they are more likely to work harder. And so, that's where some of this incentivization really is the big key that I wanted to hop in with this, with the game theory tonight, because we've seen it in all of these projects, whether it's Hex, whether it's Hedron, whether it's Maxi, whether it's Pulsechain, whether it's PulseX, there are incentives built in to these contracts that make people behave in such a way that is not only adding value to the ecosystem, but is bringing in more people that also add value to the ecosystem.
Correct.
And then when you have all these different parts, adding value to not only themselves, but one another, it just incentivizes people that much further to keep doing the same thing. And it just kind of becomes this, people talk about it all the time. It's the networking effect. Metcalfe's law states that any network's value is proportionally squared to the number of users. And, it creates this exponential effect on how much everybody is behaving in this way. It brings in more people, it brings in more value. It's a wonderful thing to see. And it's a wonderful thing to, even during a bear market where everything's just going down, you can see, it's kind of like Vince said on one of our streams. It's almost that, grass is green on the other side syndrome, because you can see it. The world just has so much more transitioning to do before it's ready for something like this, because I just don't think people fully understand it yet. And you almost don't want people with these toxic market ideologies to be here yet, because they're not going to come in with they're going to come in with their own incentives. They're not going to come in and follow the incentives of the network. And that's what we've seen with a lot of this hex selling. So
I think there's a big And it's something that, like, if you're paying attention to, I think that you've probably noticed it, but you might not have like been able to like catalyze the thought around it. But like we talked earlier about the T-share rate, right? After like 5 or 7 years, unless you're coming in with millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, you're not getting T-shares. You're just not. So all those people that are calling scam, all those people that are shilling referral links, all of those people that are like, they're sleeping on this thing right now, you're missing, like, you're
They're gonna
not
be
going to
on
have
their
the
knees
ability.
begging for
Yes.
one T-share. Well, you
Yes.
have the ability right now to stack up on multiple T-shares.
So we're flipping power dynamics in a way. Like, think about how Saylor just kind of, out of nowhere, kind of just flew into the world of cryptocurrency, took over a big chunk of mind space as this,
And
like,
got fucking liquidated and dropped out of micro.
absolutely. Hey, Michael Saylor, in 5 to 7 years time, when we're at a fucking $100 hex, I'll let you buy my bag, bitch. You can buy my bag, but you're not getting my fucking T-shares, dog. You're never getting my fucking T-shares.
My fucking T-shares, get the
Never.
fuck out of my face, Michael.
Yeah. You can buy, like, that's what I kind of love about this in some ways, is that like those toxic people that want to fuck over and they want to misalign the incentives, they're not here right now. They are not in this system right now.
No.
And all of the people that are going to behave and they are going to like be good over the next 10 to 15 years, because like,
and they're going to have a very large portion of that,
it's not even a forcing of the system. Like, the system is not going to make you do anything, which is what's different to what Legacy is doing. Like, the Legacy system, like, they just forced 80% of the fucking planet to get vaccinated. Like, by force.
Dude, and they have slimy ways of doing it, bro. Because like,
yeah, absolutely,
even that whole vaccination thing was just like a huge money laundering like process.
Absolutely.
And so, the big one I pointed out was last week here in America, we had a $1.28 billion lottery.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right. Almost $700 million of that fucking lottery money was sent to the fucking government in taxes, and 3 days later they sent the $1 billion package, fucking weapon package, over to Ukraine. So guess what?
Yeah.
Everybody right now who was out there buying fucking lottery tickets last week, you just funded that fucking weapons package to Ukraine. Congratulations.
Yep. Way to go, dudes. Way to go. The brilliant thing about this system is that there's no forcing. You decide your stake lengths. You decide the amount of time. You decide if you want to participate. You decide if you want your incentives to align with the community incentives. Like, this is all choice. It is free choice, which is almost the best thing about this system. This is freedom on your terms.
And unfortunately,
you get to decide.
And the way that I see it is exactly like you have the freedom of choice, but people have to be willing to have the mind to use that freedom of choice, because like at the end of the day, we're always going to have a certain amount of people who just follow the incentives that they're given. And so when you have a government who's giving out those bad incentives, you're always going to have a percentage of population who follows those bad incentives. Government says we got a big ass lottery, you get a bunch of people that go in and fund more of that lottery, as opposed to on the network, or let's just say, Hex, you're incentivizing people to take, some of that supply off the market and delay it to the future. A certain amount of people are going to follow that incentive. So it's like, would we rather, we always have freedom of choice, but these incentives, they're going to capture, obviously the people who are thinking about it and see it as a good incentive are going to follow that incentive. But the population of people who come into something and are kind of just directed by the incentives that they're given, it's better to have those good incentives there, so that part of the population can be pushed in the right direction while they're learning the system.
Yes. And there's no like, hey, even those people that like, they're going to be pushed in the right direction, it's still going to be like, they're free to do that by choice. It's not like with like the legacy system forces you into a position. Like, okay, you might have a couple of options, but then there's like, there's no outside option that frees you outside of those set of like options that you're already trapped inside of. So in Legacy, like you like you're forced to work. I mean, you can choose not to work, and
But
we
good
can
luck
pretend like
surviving.
and we can pretend like that's a fucking choice. But it's not a choice. You're just forced into picking between two evils at that point, basically. And the evils are like, oh, you're going to choose to be a slave by going to work. Yeah. So like giving limited choices, that's a brilliant thing about Hex. It's like 1 to 15 years, anywhere in between, you decide. You decide. If you're only cool with 1 year, do 1 year. If you're cool with 3, do 3. Or like do it all. But like you're going to be responsible. And I think that's a big part of what ties into freedom. Freedom is responsibility.
Yeah.
It just is.
Most definitely.
Really at the deepest level. Like, so this is like you choose to be a part of Hex. You choose to be a part of Richard's ecosystem and these products and projects. And you decide. You're creating your own fate, basically. That's you don't get to decide that in the Legacy world. Like your fate is decided.
Nor
for
has
you,
that
basically.
ever even been an option in the history of humanity.
Yeah.
No,
like we've just kind of been forced into our positions in society, and now that we're coming out with these more decentralized financial systems, we can look into things like these tokenomics, these game theories, and understand, how can we push better incentives towards people using this financial software that's immutable and decentralized and all these other things. The game theory is everything. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that drives markets is the psychology. How are people thinking about it? What are people valuing? And how can we get people to value the right kind of things? That pretty much wraps it up. I mean, at the end of the day, it is the incentives that these contracts are giving. Because again, I didn't know any of this stuff before I came into Hex. Me getting in, being incentivized and staking long term forced me to become more involved and more I guess just being staked long term and forced me to be invested educationally on what I'm in, as opposed to just looking at a price chart all the time. I'm hopping on streams, I'm listening to people, I'm trying to understand what these projects are, because my money's locked up. There's nothing else I can do till it's till that's done. So it all starts with the incentives, because without that, I wouldn't know any of this.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, guys, it is heading pretty late here though, and we've been through 5 different projects and whole bunch of other stuff. So I think it'd be a really good place to wrap it up, because if I talk about everything, I won't be able to stream anymore.
That's perfect. We came back full circle, I think.
Oh
yeah, we really did.
Definitely.
It was a good episode, and like I said, I'm going to try to get more people on here and just try to keep the channel going, try to talk about new things every week. I mean, we talked about psychedelics and government last week. We talked about tokenomics and game theory this week. Who knows what I come up with next. But enjoy talking to you guys. I appreciate you brothers coming through. I appreciate everybody in the chat for coming through, and I appreciate everybody who's going to be watching this in the future. I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. You can find all of us on YouTube and Twitter with these names, and hope to see you guys next week.
All right.
Awesome.
Have a good night, brothers.
Peace, fam.
Hey, you too, guys. Peace out, brothers.
Peace out.